Hey, I think Hunter's jumping on now. We had a one-on-one leading up to this.
Good morning.
Morning. I went camping this weekend with my toddler and my newborn. And my wife kept us sane. I think it was a rough one. First time camping with a 5-month-old. So that can always be challenging. But first night I was ready to call mercy on the second night. As everyone's lack of sleep built up in the afternoon and became just kind of a real challenging time. But my wife held firm and I just drafted her. And then the second night went much better. Like everyone slept much better the second night. So glad we did 2 nights, which was the original intent.
Instantiate naps even on camping.
I tried, he just fear missing out. And my toddler was just like, no, he just would not, finally I just lured him onto a blanket and then just like, he was melting down a bit and he just from meltdown mid cry, just like silence because he fell asleep.
I think he meant naps for you, Scott.
Oh yeah. Well,
that too.
That's contingent on the other naps. I had a hammock I brought and I was like, I really want to lie in that hammock, but there's no timeline in which I can lie in that hammock right now and I don't get in trouble with my wife, which is reasonable. There was a lot going on. All right. Anyway,
you guys want to go ahead and get started? Let's see. We got 1, 2. I think I saw Marie, 3, and prop 4, 5. Okay, yeah, cool. Let's do it. Okay, so I'll go ahead and share my screen. Cool. So we have 2 proposals on the agenda today. And then other than that, potentially we can have some space for discussion if there is any. And then other than that, we might be able to end early. I remember something we brought up a couple of weeks ago is potentially opening to community involvement in the regular TSC meeting. It seems like there hasn't been a huge amount of interest in that, which is fine. I think that probably means that the inquiries and desires and discussions are being handled at a previous layer of support. So that's good. But yeah, so we can go ahead and start with this one. So this is something that me and Andrew had chatted about. Basically, Jessica, I think Jessica I saw on the call, is one of the release engineers from LF, and has at various points been sort of like temporarily provided the permissions required for acting as a release engineer for Magma in terms of like the org and or repo permissions, but it's been sort of transiently revoked, which has caused like productivity problems. So the solution here that we've envisioned is just going ahead and granting her org owner permissions and effectively acting as the LF representative in the set of Magma org owners. And so for context, if you remember back to the sort of the period of time where we were going through and formalizing and cleaning up our org and repo permissions, we do repo permissions on a GitHub team basis, and we do org permissions as everyone is a member except we have 1 to 2 people accounts per stakeholder that get to act as org owners. And currently we have 1 LF org owner, and it's the Linux Foundation bot. And so this brings that up to 2. And in this case is an actual user account, because the bot is apparently not, I don't actually know the backing functionality, but it's Andrew indicates that it's an automation account and not actually like something that any individual is taking actions on behalf of. So anyways, that to say, this is something that I chatted with Phil previously, and he also was indicating that he thinks this is a good idea. So we can open up for discussion at this point if there is any, and then we can take a vote.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Okay.
Actually efficient.
Yeah.
Reasonable?
Efficiency.
Better than reasonable? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a vote then. With mics on, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. I'll go ahead and add the indicators after the meeting, but that one passes.
Did
Thank
you?
you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
For sure, yeah. What's up?
Question on this, just process wise. Hunter, did you provide Andrew much assistance in getting through the proposal process, or did?
Yes.
He pointed me at it, and so I went and did it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we had previously discussed, Scott, and I think there's still an open old action item to add both the template, which was, I was like with Andrew when he was opening the proposal, the lack of template was not exactly confusing, but like a sticking point where it was a point that could have caused confusion. I think
Yeah,
we
if I
have
didn't know
this
what it
now,
was I
which
was
is-
trying to do, that would have been annoying, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, we have this now, which is nice. I think there was one little quirk that Marie was investigating, and then this is the thing that I think actually we need, the succinct description under the contribute section, because I had to sort of describe and walk Andrew through, not because of his incompetence, obviously,
No.
but because there's no centralized description of what to do.
Okay.
And so I
Let's
think
get
being
these
able
three-
to just send someone this page would be nice.
Let's get these two items back on the renewed nag Scott list, and I
Cool.
will hopefully not be nagged for very long about them, but let's put them on the recurring action items that really need to happen.
Cool. I can also, it might be useful. I can potentially take these if desired, just because it might be useful for me to write up, like from the perspective of someone who didn't originate the process, my
Yep.
view of the short version of it, and then you can critique what I'm misunderstanding. Maybe that would be productive.
That sounds great too.
Okay, I'll handle that in a bit. All right, cool. So the next proposal we have is from Pravin, the semantic commits proposal. Pravin, do you want to take this one?
Sure. Yeah. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay. All right. So, can you guys see my screen?
Mhm.
All right. So yeah. So this is pretty straightforward proposal. It's basically currently focusing on the semantics of the commit message and specifically the subject line. So there is already structure around the commit message, which is defined in the GitHub pull request template. So this one is targeted. This proposal is targeted for the subject line itself. So, and the idea is that we can follow this convention commit.org. This was, I think, proposed by Hunter, that we can look at this. And this is like,
I think, by Andrew initially. I don't want to interrupt, but yeah, originally from Andrew as an idea that we could move toward this.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so this one, sorry. So this one is defines how a commit message subject line should look like, and so specifically, first there would be a type. Then after that, it follows the scope where the changes are going, and then the description. That's so some of the open source projects do follow this, but it's not very strictly enforced. So And so the idea is to define this particular type, the subject line definition, and then somehow enforce it using there is an app which validates that. So the advantage of this one is that we can it becomes clear what this particular PR is doing, whether it's a fix or feature, and then there are a bunch of other types. Then another advantage that I think is more interesting is that we can pretty much automatically generate the change log for new release based on the commit subject lines. So that would be good improvement. And the next thing is we can have some sort of analytics, what kind of changes are going in, whether it's more fixes or more features. And it will also make developer think about whether they're mixing two different type of changes in the same PR. So this one is the last advantage is big subjective. I'm not sure how much how much it will be in practice, but it's good to have a kind of structure around this subject line. So I just want to get some feedback. What do you guys think about this overall change? And this I think we can do this post GA, because we are just going to branch out for GA. So I don't want to introduce a lot of changes in this last week of this sprint. But after 1.6, I would like to have some sort of convention for writing the commit subject line.
Hey, Praveen, this is Roy speaking. I do like the idea of having a syntax, in fact, for commit, especially for the fact that we could generate a release note based on the commit list. And for me, the most important one is how to enforce. And if we can't enforce, that's will not be possible. So you said that there is a GitHub app. That,
yeah.
Okay. So for me, that's the most important one. If we cannot enforce, then I mean it's not gonna be up. It's not gonna be happening. Yeah.
Yes.
This is Andrew Grimberg. I want to interject. I don't think I've seen pre-commit in your repositories, or I haven't looked that closely, but pre-commit does have a plugin GitLint that supports this as a community add-on. It ships with it. You just have to add a configuration file and it turns it on. So we are using it ourselves internally at Linux Foundation for the release engineering repositories. We started using that after we found out about it, and it has significantly improved the quality of our commit messages.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so just to understand, so the pre-commit, it is a GitHub hook, or it's a Git?
So pre-commit is an application that developers can install locally, and what it does is it sets up commit message hooks, or not just commit message hooks, but commit hooks that can do various things. So it's a series of different types of validators and stuff like that that have to pass before the commit can even actually happen on the local workstation.
Okay.
And there is a plugin to that called GitLint, which is a commit message hook. And it has the ability to do the semantic commit messages as a community add-on. The thing is that, for instance, Linux Foundation, we run pre-commit on our repositories. We also run that as a job in our CI systems, so that those developers that have not installed pre-commit still get hit by it, basically.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is better because it is directly going into the Git commit messages itself. So I like that. So can you post comment on this proposal so I can also have?
I actually already did.
Okay. Okay. Good. All right. So yeah. So
Yeah,
I'll investigate
as a
that.
quick aside, in my mind, yeah, like Andrew pointed out, I think that it makes sense that we'd want it both locally, so that we can catch it early. You don't want to push it. We don't want contributors to have to push commit and then they find out, 30 minutes later that they have to go in and change. But to be fair, part of the reason why I think this is a good idea is I'm unclear on whether it's the commit message or the subject of the PR, because ultimately the subject of the PR, the subject line or the title line of the PR is what becomes the squash and merge. The title of the squashed and merged commit that gets added to master. So I think maybe, you know, sort of like figuring out that distinction and like, what are we actually trying to optimize for? To me, what we're trying to enforce is that like the final commit that gets added to master, it has a semantic commit message. And so, yeah, to me, it's more about the PR title, but I do think that it might still be valuable to add the local information, the local lint as well. But yeah, I suppose that's something that Pravin can look into.
Yeah, so it's just about the multiple commit messages in a PR. So that I think if we have the local validation, then we pretty much will get all the subject lines for every commit corrected or validated automatically. So I think that's also good to have.
But doesn't it like when you submit a PR with multiple commits, it takes like only one of the messages, right? So like, are we going to have a problem where, I mean, it's not like that big of a problem, but if you want to have the feature of, you know, filtering through for release messaging, maybe
So
we don't want to like, do we want to disable squash and merge or?
I'm going to be quite frank. Squash and merge is actually a really bad thing. And here is me talking as a release engineer and also somebody who does this particular thing. I sign every single one of my commits. I GPG sign it. The moment you put in squash and merge, you literally can't squash any of my commits because I have enabled on GitHub the fact that all of my commits must have my signature. You, as a project, if I were to propose a change, you literally can't change my merges if you do squash and merge, ever.
Yeah,
GitHub will not let you now.
So yeah, I also don't like a squash and merge, but it seems that a lot of people use that. So maybe that we can have separate proposal where we can talk about how to what should be the guideline for squash and merge. But
Yeah.
just to address that, the PR title from multiple commits. So what I've seen is that the GitHub PR would take the subject line from very topmost commit message. So if all of your commit messages are already validated, then we should be good to go.
Are you not able to edit it at the time of squash and merge? I thought you could edit it, or can you not?
You can. So this is like not going to be a perfect solution at the end of the day. We'll probably have to have some like label based solution for like, oh shoot, I messed it up or forgot a breaking change or whatever. But I think this would catch like 95% of the stuff. We're basically just, it'll catch everything where someone isn't manually editing. Because in order to merge it, I think you have to be a maintainer. And so, yeah, the only case where this won't catch is if a maintainer fiddles with the commit message.
Okay. My only question, I love the whole idea. I think that this is, I was wondering why if we could get some automated release notes going.
There's a GitHub app actually to do automated release notes as long as you're using semantic commit messages.
And is it this semantic commit?
I don't know if it's that one or not. I would have to go dig it up myself. A colleague of mine sent it to me just the other day after he learned about semantic commit messages, and he's like, "Ooh, that's interesting," and he went digging around somewhere. I
think my only follow-up question is like, just do we need to look at other options? Like, is this the right semantic?
My understanding is that this is the
that's pretty much where it's fallen down. I did a whole bunch of research on this recently, actually.
Okay.
I found out about it due to a blog post as I was doing some best practices. I was writing a presentation for best practices, and I stumbled across this. It's going back to at least 2015 at this point, and the community is pretty much revolved down to this conventional commits.org for it. So
it's surprising it's v1.0.0.
Well, actually, there's a whole bunch of blog posts that have kind of gone into this. So I have a feeling that the 1.0.0 is more of a matter of that's just kind of where the community has kind of come to.
Okay.
Okay.
One thing that
yeah,
I
so-
will say is that their topics and types are all completely optional. They don't actually define any of those in conventional commit. They make recommendations,
Okay,
and the ones that Praveen has here are the default recommendations.
that's good. Okay.
Yeah, so I guess we need to also expand the scope if needed, but that we can discuss that when we have actual PR out. But yeah, overall, so this is how the commit subject line would look like in when we have when we are posting any PR, and probably also in the GitHub history.
Cool. So
So-
I think that, or go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So I think that like the MVP, like the minimum like implementation change that we would need to and sort of turn on this proposal or enact this proposal is, yeah, the probably publicizing it in the docs, and B slash sending it out to the community, and B turning on the required CI check, because, you know, as Raphael pointed out, if it's not required, then we might as well not do this at all.
Well, you probably want to do it, just turn on the check to begin with and let
Yeah.
it run for a bit. So people get, hey, there's an error, but it's not required. And then
Well,
say,
more than-
Yeah.
okay, at some point, we will start requiring this.
More critically,
that
as
makes
Marie
sense too.
found out, if you make a new check and make it required, then everyone has to sync their branches because it doesn't
True.
exist and it's required by GitHub.
Okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense. I would say that, like, I think that's the correct ordering of like phasing the turning of it on. At the end of the day, I think that those two pieces are like the essential minimum set of changes to implement this, and then the sort of pre-commit local pre-commit stuff is another thing that we can iterate on. And then the other thing that was brought up today is like, what merge or pattern should we be using, given that we're using squash and merge right now, or squash and whatever it is.
It's a squash and merge.
Squash and merge, yeah, thanks. So yeah, I think I can make a note of those two follow-up questions, but yeah, so do we want to go ahead and okay, so the last thing I was going to say is, my thought is we send this proposal, I can like post, or Pravin can, in the dev channel in the Slack, just for this week, to get any sort of feedback, see if anyone's like, this is a terrible idea, given that we're trying to end up making it another required check. And then I'm assuming with high probability, no one will have a problem with it. And then next week we can go ahead and get Pravin's original PR merge to turn this on. How does that sound, everyone?
Yeah, that sounds good. So so basically the plan is to get the GitHub app up and running, and then iterate on the git pre-commit hooks.
Yeah, and like Andrew said, we can leave it non-required for, you know, a couple of weeks, maybe 2 or so, and then require it after that.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool. So let's take a vote then. All in favor of passing this proposal, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, sorry, also.
All opposed. All right, didn't hear Pravin, but assuming that was also an aye, so
Yeah.
we'll say that passes unanimously. And I'll make a mark of that.
An eye for an eye.
Let's see. Okay, so we got about 4 minutes left. We have burned through our agenda with time to spare for the first time that I can remember that the TSC has been having meetings. So good job, everyone. With the last 4 minutes, does anyone have general topics or specific stuff that they want to bring up? And to either publicize or discuss. Okay, cool. Well then I guess we can end a little early today. And yeah, I will, next week we can check back in on the semantic commits. And let's see, Phil, if you want to go ahead and add Jessica as one of the org owners as the actionable from the first proposal.
Did it while we were talking.
Perfect. All right. All right. Well, let's lock it in there. And yeah, we'll see everyone next week.
Bye.
Yes.